Hello, good evening. It's Campaigns and Conquests. I'm your host, Storm. Magenta is still out ill. Thanks for joining me. We're here to talk about my games again. Why do I keep talking about my games? They're fun. I want people to play them. So I'm going to bring it up a little bit more. We're going to take a look at Tabletop Simulator, which is uh, one way to play these games. Right now, I'm running a Star Wars game, but I had some people bring up Star Trek as well, which I'd love to play. I have an RPG adventure for Star Trek, but finding people for RPGs is awfully hard, and you need, I think, about 5 people for Star Trek. But you don't need 5 people to play the military part of it, which is kind of a warfare type of domain play type of situation. You can be Romulan, Klingon, or Federation in that situation, that scenario, if you will. But it's based off the RPG game, one way or the other, the adventure that I wrote about it. So somewhere I've got a map that I think I would use for that. I used it in the past. Anyway, put the just like this here with Star Wars, you put the map out and you have some get it up and running here. Boom, 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 boom. There it is. See if this works okay for you. See if you can see that. Yep. Okay. Presentation. Oh, heavens. That makes it go away. Okay. Good to know. All right. Anyhow, so let's load it up. But the same, I think most people that have been here before have seen it. Doesn't load instantly, sorry. Boom, 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 boom. But it's the same deal. You put down a map, PNG or JPEG map, I believe, works in this system, and you can place the 3-dimensional models that you can get over that, and use those as markers so you can keep track of what's going on. And then the same deal applies. Should players want to, when they come into contact with enemy fleets, they can play the miniatures battle out. In Star Wars, it's basically a slightly modified version of the mass battles that comes with Star Wars West End Games RPG. In the case of Star Trek, it is this one's always a mouthful. Star Trek Starship Tactical Combat Simulator, or something thereabouts. It's a mouthful, but anyway, it's a mass battles add-on to the FASA Star Trek RPG of the 80s. It also serves as a standalone combat game should you want to use it that way, which is kind of the way we would use it in that sense. Don't let the age fool you. There's a lot of people out there that just assume everything from a prior time is something, but don't assume, please. It's actually a very fun and quick little game. Everybody always complaining about time, but it really doesn't take that much time. There is a learning curve. All games have them. It is the Star Trek one is slightly exacerbated because there are a few lines in a couple of the rule sections where the editor must have gone out to lunch, and they're really hard to understand, just not because the concept is difficult, but because it's just worded in a very ham-fisted manner. So I had the opportunity to play this game, the Star Trek game, even though you're looking at the Star Wars one, the Star Trek game. An opportunity to look at that sometime last year, went through the rules, talked to some people who were in the know, found a cleaned up version. Really great when you have fan support for these games. And the Star Trek game has a lot of fan support. And somebody went through the time and trouble and distributed freely a version of the rule set that is properly edited. And it makes a world of difference, and I can distribute that to people. It's free, and it's legit. They've got all the permissions and all that. So anyway, that makes it a completely different learning experience. And once you go through that, you see, oh yeah, this is fairly simple, and it's a lot of fun to play. So everybody's welcome to do that. How do you do it? Well, you can just get involved by getting on the server. I have a Discord server. Here is. I can't put it in. If you're in Twitter and you're watching this and you don't see the link, I don't know what's up with Twitter and this thing. Something to do with Twitter. It doesn't allow you to communicate both ways. It's not my fault, whatever. But you can just direct message me on Twitter and say, hey, I want to play. And we'll hook you up. So that's what we're doing with that. Working on some new rules, if anybody interests that. A little quick and easy fantasy rule set. Anybody finds that interesting. So what's going on with the Star Wars game? Well, it's going. I just wanted to give an opportunity for people who might be interested in role-playing a particular portion of it a little time to react, but it's just, it ain't going to happen. The role-playing thing's too hard to set up. So we're going to move forward with that. And the Imperial players have the opportunity to play a miniatures game of what's about to occur. I don't think they'll want to. So we'll just wait for them to say how they want to conduct the operation on the planet that they're arrived, which is Gilsey. That's at least how I'm pronouncing it. And it's a planet in the Artemis sector. Right. Not right there. Not Generis. Oh, Gilsey. I'm so bad. It's actually Giblia right there. That's where they're going. And oops. So what they want to do there, they have been given orders from higher headquarters to not just blow everything up this time, because that world is got resources that the Empire wants to exploit and not destroy. So they have to go down on the surface if they want to deal with the issue and work it out from there. So that's where we're at with that, as far as the Star Wars go. Well, with the miniatures, should they want to, the ground battle, should they want to play that out at a kind of tactical level, yeah, I would use West End Games Star Wars miniature battle for this particular situation. Yeah. But I don't think anybody's going to do that. So what they'll get is they'll just tell me what they want to do as far as their plan of operation, and then that will be arbitrated at a different level by me. So, and that's not West End games that I do that with, really. Kind of a modified, I mean, it's a modified version of it, but it's not strictly West End games at that level. If people just want, so what they'll do is they'll tell me, here's what I want to do. I'll do my number crunching and I'll give them a narrative reply instead of a bunch of war game terms or whatever. They'll just here's what happened, or they'll read, here's what happened. So it's one of those things that a lot of those certain groups go, oh, I don't want to hear about your novel or your fiction or whatever. Well, then you don't want to play this, because that's what you're going to get, is you're just going to get a little chunk of fiction. It's not going to be a novel. It's not going to be, whatever, but it'll be a message. Anywhere from a few sentences to, about an email size. That's all. It's the, I blew this SOB up as high as I could scale. There's not really a scale for Star Wars. It's all relative. So I got a PNG that works well with scaling, and I turned it up as high as I could get it. So it looks awesome and big, and I can fit the little ships on it. The ships just are represent like fleets, battle groups, and stuff like that. So when you mouse over the fleet, it doesn't happen instantaneously for people who are, lacking in patience. Sorry, I can't make it go any faster. But so if you mouse over it and let it sit for a second, it'll tell you, like this one. Presuming you can see this on the screen, says Shindrilla Task Force, 8 Imperial class Star Destroyers, 15 Victory class Star Destroyers. So that's what that piece represents. No, none of that parsecs or any of that crap. No. I mean, that's the. It took they spent like, you can read articles where people surmise what a parsec means or whatever, and I think they worked it out or whatever, but no, nothing like that here. There's no scale. The scale is how long it takes to travel in hours, days, and minutes, and that's calculated at the when you say I want to go to another planet, you'll get a reply saying this is approximately how long it's going to take. And at that point, you can either decide to engage or not, and that's how far between, and that depends on your route in other situations. So, but this is completely narrative. This isn't some, when I say war game, most people go, oh, it's going to be too complex and too hard to play and all that sort of stuff. So I just I say it's a narrative war game, and it works for a lot of people. It works good. You just say, here's what I want to do. And, you have some guideline, like you look and say, okay, it's going to take this long if I want this ship to unload all its troops onto the planet or whatever. And I keep time. So time is being kept, but distance is I don't have kilometers or light years or any of that stuff. I just have time. Here's how long it's going to take to get there based on the route you chose and that. So that's the scale. There's no real scale. But, and so if you do make a connection, where you land at a planet that has the enemy on it, or in a system that has enemy troops in it, or enemy ships, you can elect to go down to a kind of tactical battlefield and play that out on a miniatures field. So, which is fun, but everybody's all about fast and shortcuts and simple, so I don't think that'll happen very often. In the Star Trek, it's a different deal. If you don't play with the tactical is the primary focal point. The The strategic is just kind of a neat second layer. If you don't play with the tactical on the Star Trek, then there's no game to play. So this one's a little different that way. It's kind of two different things. So, and then there's let's see if I can find. I might have to get a new version thereof, but there's oops, got to hit all the right buttons. There was a BattleTech one. There's some people that were interested in BattleTech. So I was going to show that one too. Okay, I got two choices. One one may work, one may not. So, well, let's see if this is the right call. I don't remember which one. So we'll just, boy, 480. I sure hope I made the right choice. But anyway, I'm sorry you've got to wait a few seconds. I know people are very impatient. I don't have the extra $1,500 it would take to make this thing move instantaneously. Sorry. Yeah, most people just don't do. I can't get people to play RPGs, Dave. I just can't get enough people to do it. And this way, a lot of people, they can put in the amount of time that they want. They can just go, here's what I want to do, and then casually come back and get a reply, and they just kind of watch the story progress at a leisurely pace. Because connecting 5 people together at any one time I can't do that. So, give me a rundown on actual play. If this was a game being run, well, it is a game being run. How would it work roughly? Maybe. Well, here was here was something that they got sort of be out of context, but that's okay. Well, let's see. This was an intelligence briefing that was received, that Dave there got about a insurgency attack on Imperial forces on the planet of Fest. Imperial intelligence briefing was sent to the ISD Triumphant. That's Dave's ship, or his flagship, I should say. The subject is civilian unrest and resistance propaganda on Fest. So, and I make it look all kind of, sort of official and military, briefing and date and clearance level and all. It's just make it look cool. It's not really actual game terminology, but it's in the overview is in the last 18 hours, the following hostile incidents have occurred in the town of Jorhan on the planet of Fest. The first attack was a drive-by speeder shooting. That's right, drive-by. I like that. There was some off-duty troops that were in the local outdoor bazaar shopping. Some civilians in a speeder, like a Star Wars car. If you're not familiar with Star Wars, it's basically a car. Drove past, shot in the crowd, killed 2 Army personnel and 2 naval personnel, wounded 9 others, including civilians. Attackers fled at high speed. Attempts to track the speeder have been unsuccessful. About an hour and a half later, there was a bombing at a mortar pool. Station vehicles and maintenance personnel appeared to be the target. IED explosives planted near the refueling station. The result was 5 Imperial vehicles destroyed, 7 troopers dead, 14 wounded. Forensics indicate a remote detonator. No known rebel cells have claimed responsibility. And then after that, there was a hacking of the HoloNet, which is kind of a mixture of TV and the internet in the Star Wars world. And there was a scene from placed on the screen, kind of we're going to fight. The word murderers was flashing. A stormtrooper, let me get it right. A stormtrooper gauntlet soaked in blood with the Rebel Alliance's insignia burned into the back. A digitally altered voice states, "Justice is coming," and then the signal is cut off. So basically, it's just, then it goes on to explain what that player thinks should be done in response to that. So you get those kind of things. If it was some sort of military situation, they'd say, "Hey, we've entered the such and such system, and we've detected rebel ships," or something like that. So that's kind of how it goes. That way, I don't have to hear about complexity and in the weeds and all that. That stuff just gives me a headache. So now the people that are playing the Star Trek war game, they seem to be a little bit more into the war game stuff. One gentleman that I don't know if he's going to play, but he just recently bought it, and he seemed very interested in learning and playing that game, which isn't, usually the explanation of a war game from the 80s is about 10 times more longer and more complicated than it really was or is. So it's a fairly mid-level, if not low level as far as complexity, late 1980s war game. It's not Starfleet battles. It's a lot simpler than that, but it's a lot of fun. So we wanted to play that. Now, right. And Dave's response to the terrorist attack was basically just bombarding the entire civil population in retribution. So very Imperial-like, very. So, and the next thing is they're going to this other planet to investigate what happened to a colony survey team that appears to have been torn up by some sort of monstrous alien or something like that. So they're going to investigate that. And that was going to be an RPG session, but it took me a year and a half to get 5 people to play Ash Worlds back in 2022. I'd love to do it that way, because I don't, but you have to beg, plead, borrow, and steal to get people to show up. And then a lot of times when they say they're going to play, they blow you off anyway. So, in the interest of, there's other people playing, in the interest of keeping it going, I just thought, let's just keep going and move on. So as a player, Dave gets to say what he wants to do. I head to the planet, investigate. Right. Yeah. 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 He's got a flotilla of Star Destroyers, and he's being promoted. Because that kind of shit happens. Somebody got choked out or something. So get to, sometimes, you just move up through the ranks because all of a sudden there isn't anybody at the station above you. They're laying in a heap on the floor or being drug off by stormtroopers or something. So he'll end up controlling the sector fleet that's being built in the Festus. It's Festus the planet. The sector is Artravis, and because all this anti-imperial sentiment has flared up, they've decided to construct an entire sector fleet, which is a kind of organizational unit, like company and battalion or something like that. So that's what he does. And there's a player above him that's an admiral, and there's a couple generals for ground actions here and there. And then we have 2 or 3 rebellion people right now. One's a kind of an overall commander, and the other two are sub commanders that run portions of the rebel fleet. So waiting for people to play the Hutts, waiting for people to play the Black Sun, waiting for people to play the Pirates. So Pirates are easy enough that you can just NPC them. And I mean, I could go NPC with the Hutts and the Black Sun, but that's not as fun. It's a lot funner when there's people playing those. So we're waiting for that to go on. So the last time we played this, it got a little. Everybody wanted to be a drug dealer. Everybody wanted to be a Hutt, and that's, you got to space it out. Somebody's, so it's no fun if everybody's playing the same faction. So we kind of tried to get people to fill up the Empire and the Rebellion before we, and then do the third party. But if you wait around to fill every slot before you start, you might as well just not do this, because there's just not enough people interested to play any of these games. At some point, you either go with what you've got, or they just get bored and find something else to do. Yeah. There's the current planet they're investigating is has some resources. It's fertile. It's a farming planet, and they want that farming planet for food to feed the troops that are coming in. So you can't just nuke it. They're not playing the entire faction. There's a chain of command. So the Hutts, the chain of command isn't really the right term for what happens with the Hutts, but yeah, they're not playing the whole faction. It's more of a mafioso hierarchy than, and pirates have chain of command locally, if I had enough people, but usually somebody playing a pirate is just playing a group of ships that are all, they're like Blackbeard. At one point, Blackbeard had 3 ships. So like that, because I just can't get enough people. This is one of these games where you couldn't put enough people. Like, there's no maximum. I could do this with 100 people, and the more people, the funner it would be. But, unfortunate, we're adults in reality, and reaching that many people and getting them all to be able to commit to play obviously isn't realistic, but it could do it. So, and it's the same thing with now that the BattleTech's up, the same deal. So with BattleTech, the way I do this is I use this system, this board game, and all the rules of the board game apply, save 2. 1, in the board game, when there's combat, you roll a die, and I think look at a chart if I remember right, or something like that, or beat a particular number versus the other, or some deal like that. We don't do that. Instead, we get out Battle Force 2, which, if you're not familiar with the BattleTech world, Battle Force 2 is kind of a mass battle. Like BattleTech, the original game, was you could control more than one mech, but it was usually like 2 or 3 mechs versus 2 or 3 mechs, maybe 4 at the most, or something like that. But then there was kind of the mass battles deal, which was called Battle Force, where instead of 1 or 2 or 3 mechs, now it's a company or a battalion of them, something like that. So we use that system. So everything in the so here's like a unit from one of the factions, Orloff Grenadiers. So they've got a little number there. I don't know if these are, yeah, okay. So 3. Those numbers are totaled up 3. They're multiplied by 10, which means you just add a 0 to them. For those that aren't fans of math, you just add a 0. And that you have 30 points. So there's a little chart inside the Battle Force manual that lists the cost of mech companies and tank companies and infantry companies and stuff like that. So they purchase uh, that many units, and then that's recorded as that's the unit. That's what's Orloff Grenadiers are. Let's just pull something out of a hat for example: 3 medium mech companies and 1 VTOL helicopter support company or something like that. Okay, that's the unit. So when they go to battle, when they incur casualties, those casualties are marked. So the next battle after that, you only fight with what's left until you get replacements, and there's a system for replacements. That usually is just spend money. So you just do a different combat, and the only other rule that changes is in the board game you can only rebuild mercenary units, but in our game you can rebuild any unit by spending money. Everything else is just playing the board game, and that's the BattleTech version. Dave says Captain Faustus is going to join the away team. Saying join the away team with Star Wars is like putting the answer into the form of a question on the Wheel of Fortune, but okay, yeah. Second in charge of the ice, he will address this monster threat personally. Okay. So we just need a what is the away team? What are you doing? You have, just tell me how many troops and any vehicles or whatever. You've got the list of what you've got on your Star Destroyer. So just tell me what it is, and then and what they're going to do when they get down there. And then we'll give you the reply from there. So there is a mass battles formula that gets played out, but I run that through an Excel sheet, and then I take the information that it gives me, and I put it into a narrative form for the player. So it's entertaining and it feels like a story instead of reading, okay, I got, 2 hit points reducted or whatever the hell, try to keep all that game jargon out of it. And that's just how we play the Star Wars one. Next time, I got one gal who said she'd like to try a 40K one. I do have an outline for a 40K thing. All I need is a 40K map, because I played that when it was 2nd edition. I didn't play it for that long, so I don't know the lore that well, but I need a 40K map, and I think I can come up with the rest. So I bet you I'm answering questions for people that have already left. But anyway, but I do this with a bunch of stuff, and all I need is people to play. So, and it's meant to have a role playing. Well, it is role playing because Dave plays Falstaff and he plays from that perspective, and it's play by post role playing. But I just you just can't get people to sit at the table all the time. You keep hearing, I don't have the time. I don't, this is my schedule and all that stuff, and I get tired of chasing that around. And then even when you do get them, sometimes then they go, well, I didn't want to play this for that long or whatever. So this makes it easy. So any questions? I think they both left. So we're supposed to have another guy show up, but that's what I get. I get people that say they're coming and then they blow it off. So it's just easier to do the deal. So I do have models for this game too. There's one. I don't know if this particular one works still, but let's take a look. And of course. The shader's gone, but here it is. So these are the kind of models that are used. This guy's, all this paint's gone though, but I was working on some myself. See how many are left. Oh, it's gonna chitty chitty bang bang there. Again, sorry for the wait, but money, 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 and I ain't got none. Maybe that $5 grand stimmy check will come and I can buy a decent rig, so it'll be more instantaneous on the loading. So what I do is I make them into these little things. Let's see, it's not locked, is it? I make them smaller and then I collect them here, and that becomes kind of a unit that's played out in the mass battles game. And you got little tanks and stuff like that too. So all the something happened to that particular one, but but anyway, so you got the ground forces and all that. I haven't found infantry, but I've got a way to make that work anyway. So, oh, there it is. That's motorized infantry. Oh, look, they're on bikes. So anyway, so I use these little pieces, and that just, yeah, and my little mechs thing, and put those together and all that. So I got several of those. There's ones like I could take. I've got a Greyhawk map. I've got a Mysteria map. I've got a Dark Sun map. I haven't found for any Forgotten Realm stuff or anything like that, but I can find one easy enough. Deviant Art usually has a lot of that sort of stuff. So that's really all you need. You need something to represent the positions of the armies and the player parties or whatever it is. The Star Trek away teams or fantasy adventuring parties or companies of stormtroopers, whatever. Put them on a large map. Give everybody who has, you do one for each faction. So, and then the members of that faction are the only ones that have access. It's easy to set it up so that only they can have access to that one. So they only see what they could see legitimately. So there's true fog of war. And they can go in there and they can make their plans and they can discuss things and they can even talk and things like that. Each faction has one. And then I do, what I've been doing for decades, and that's just everything's rolled up on reaction charts and spreadsheets. I've been using spreadsheets since before Excel. I did them on a Tandy 600 laptop with a liquid crystal display. And random generators. Easily is a relative thing. You can put something in that kind of work. How do you say this? Apparently, you need what they call a what's the word? Something collision collider, a collider mesh. And if you put that on there, it helps the model be able to interact with other models. So, like, if you don't have a collider mesh or whatever I think that's the right term, collider something. If you don't have that, you wouldn't be able to put it like if it's an elf or a fighter or an archer, and you have like a castle wall. If there's no colliders, you can't put the two together. Like, it won't be able to sit on the wall. But you could import it and look at it and it would sit on the table okay. So I'm not technically adept enough to understand or know other than that much being explained to me. So, and apparently that's a fairly complicated thing to do. Um, and you need software and talent because I guess you have to trace the thing or something like that. So yes and no. Yes, you can import something that kind of half-ass works, but you can see it. But if you want it to be an actual playing piece, it gets a lot more complicated. You can even you know, if you're a whiz, there's people that have animated them. Some of the Star Wars stuff I use, you know, they kind of move around a little bit and shit like that. There was a really neat Dark Sun table, and the guy had, or I should say, I don't know if it was a guy or a gal, but the person who made it had all these animated effects. So like, you could like put this little, it looked like a little, what it really looked like is a hit of blotter acid, but it was about that size, and you put it on the model and pressed a button, and it would animate magic missile or fireball, or had a bunch of them. It was really cool, and it didn't load very well on Chitty Chitty Bang Bang here. You got to have a top notch, you know, video card and all that crap to make all that stuff work right. But what I could see of it was really awe-inspiring. It's pretty cool. So there's all sorts of things you can do. At one point, there was one table had like remote control cars. There were bumper cars, but you have to know how to program and script it and all that. And I don't know any of that shit. But I wish I could learn. I wish I'd sit down and be able to learn it. I would put a whole bunch of crap in there. Yeah, Lotus 123, right? I used to use that. I used to use that at a job I was at. Yeah, but yeah, that's how you import them. So the 3D stuff is hard because you have to do all that adding crap. But if you want to put in a map or something like that, it's easy as pie. Just hit a button, upload the file, it shows right up. I've imported maps and player screens and cards and war game chits and all that. No problem. The only problem is they don't give you enough room, and I don't know if they'll sell you more. So you're constantly, you know, switching things in and out that way. But other than that, it's cool. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping that without getting into politics, if they're going to send me $5,000, then I'll, you know, maybe I can get a better machine. But I mean, it runs most things okay. It's just, you know, when you load up a big screen, I go pour a soda or take a leak or whatever, because it's going to take a few minutes for it to load in. But it would be nice to have something where it just snaps that shit right in. So, but otherwise it's cool. And as they keep getting better with the storing things locally on their computers as opposed to paste bin or, you know, all those kinds of for shared, and that's used to be the way they worked it. And that's why when you download things and they look half-assed, it's because it's some old thing that somebody made when you had to put it on one of those Dropbox or one of those places. And that stuff gets deleted and lost and all that sort of stuff. And that's why you get blanks or things that don't have the paint that they used to or whatever, or just don't exist at all. But that'll slowly go away as more and more people migrate to the new local thing. It's pretty cool. And then there's Vassal for the Star Trek thing. You can also, I played it on Vassal. I had one guy who just hated this system. He didn't like the way it moved around he didn't like having navigated. So we played what's called Vassal, Vassal or something like that. And that's 2-dimensional, but it works good. And you can play the Star Trek game or the Star Wars game or anything like that. You don't need a kick-ass computer. You just need Java. Yeah, that's it. It's like running a hot motor with a shitty, you know, 2-barrel carb or something. Just because you got all the RAM if you're running off of some half-ass Pentium onboard, it's still, you know. But yeah, because get the good vid card. Oh, I love. See, I play miniatures, and I like to have miniatures involved, and it gives you more space, more table space. Like I couldn't play BattleTech or any of that crap on that two-dimensional shit. I hate that stuff. So this works great because you've got a little more space to work with, and you don't have. And plus, I don't have to pay anything. This is $20, and I don't have to fart around with anything else. All I got to do is turn it on, and it goes. I love that part. I don't like those 2D things. I played D&D. Technically it was basic fantasy, but fucking BX, it's all the same. I played that on Owlbear Rodeo with a guy, and it was okay. It was kind of clunky and boring to look at 2D. And I don't know why. Some sort of this is the other thing. There's always some update, and they changed something and updated it, and then the fucking thing wouldn't work. It kept crashing, and then people, like, all four of us could get in, but the fifth guy could never get in. And we spent an hour farting around trying to get that guy to log in. And then the next week it was a different guy, and we could never figure out why would it just randomly decide to kick one guy out. So it was a mess. I hated it. I looked at Roll20. I hate that with extreme prejudice. I will not play with Roll20. I don't like the company. I don't like their outlook. I don't like their system. I hate every effing thing about that shit. I won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I hate it. And then I looked at some of the other ones, and they're expensive, and you got to buy books for them and all that stuff. Bullshit. Now, I can go here, and I can import. Like, if you go look around, you'll find like the entire and maybe that's not legal, whatever. But the entire FASA BattleTech library is uploaded on one of these modules. So, and if that's an IP naughty, I'm not saying go pirate things. All I'm saying is it's proof that if you want to upload, your rules that you made up or something like that into the thing, it's a lot easier because it just accepts the PDF. And but I'm not, if I own, FASA Star Trek, I'm not paying $15 just so I can look, access the PDF on Fantasy Grounds or whichever one does that. I hate that shit. And I looked at one called like Arkin Forge or something like that, and it kind of looked cool, but at the time it was something that I had an even worse computer than the one I've got now, and I said there's no way all that lighting effect is going to work on my computer. So I don't need all the lighting effect either. And that's what's neat about this one. I don't have to have it. It can just be gone. A lot of them are pay to play though. Like a subscription or something like that, or they have this. Well, you can play for free and you can have scraps, or you can pay us and then you can have the whole thing. And I hate dorking around with that crap. And I don't even have my own place to live. So this is so much better because it's $20 retail. I got it for a gift during Christmas at a half price sale. So I've got all this game for $10. All the miniatures that I used to be able to play that I can't play anymore because I live in an apartment. That's, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread for me. Some people they don't like it, so I don't get to play with a lot of people on it, but I'm not driving around. I can't do it. Yeah, Dave, I agree. I know. I've heard that too. I'm with you. I don't want to get too political. People get mad, but you know, but yeah, the same thing. Send me the check anyway. Do both. Whatever, But yeah, so that's where I go with VTT. So, and the Vassal. Like if you're playing an like I play a lot of Avalon Hill games, like Old Man stuff and all that. I don't need to play that. Like you can play that on Tabletop Simulator. It's a waste of time to me. It's a two-dimensional, you know, hex encounter board game. Why the hell would I need to play that on a 3D simulator? So I just load up Vassal, and you can play that on anything. Shit, you can play that on an iPad, and uh, all you need is Java. It runs on anything. So it has a fantasy module to it, but you might as well go get something else. It's not that great on the Vassal because it's not meant for that. It's meant for old war games and stuff like that. But it does have Star Wars on it too. So somebody just sent me a ton of shit. Oh, there it is. So those are the ones I like to play. I'm working on a new. This is great. I'm working on a new system. I just saw your picture, Dave. That's awesome. Because I got all round up about. I don't know if any of you are here. Well, I know one. Michael was, but I got ticked off at all the everything's too complicated shit. So I just wrote up something last night. I can't get any more simple than if you want any more simple than that, you might as well just play pickup sticks, marbles, or flip a coin. And I didn't want anything. Let anybody else got any more questions about these games? I'd love to have you play, but in lieu of, I always forget that I have like a 10-second delay because I can't afford quality internet either. Yeah. Okay. Yep. That's cool. Yeah, you and both you and Michael have sent me a link to that that convention, but maybe I'll play. I mean, I'll play, but I'm not. I mean, it doesn't look like the venue for me to run something because I mean, I swear somebody in one of those Delver chats. I mean, all he ever does is talk about how anything that was from the 80s other than AD&D is some monumentally impossible, unplayable. I just okay. All these games are too hard to play. Then why you have a bookshelf full of them? Whatever. I get sick and tired of hearing that. Really. Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah. So, no. I mean, I do it, but I know that crowd would just go, "Oh no, I'd never play that game." Last time I brought up Tractics, he made it sound like it was, root canal surgery. So, and that's not a hard game to play. So I'll play with somebody. But here's the thing, and I've gone to that thing a couple of times and tried to be friendly with people, not the convention, but his normal server, and nobody was. And I tried to interact in the chat line on his thing, and very few are there. There's a couple people that do like to chat with about the old war games, and I was like, oh, that's nice. Maybe they'll play with me. And nobody could just let the conversation go. If either another chatter had to get all shitty about how those games are hard and all that. In fact, one guy told me I was off my meds because I liked them. Some stupid shit like that. Or it's Bill mocking them, and he doesn't seem to like that kind of stuff. So I just gave up going there. Didn't seem like my group of people. I had a couple of people from that server come and play my Star Wars game, and I I don't seem to fit in with most of these crowds. Yeah, that'd be cool. I no problem with. Now, when you say basic, are we like Moldvay or what basic are we? It doesn't really matter to me. I'm just making conversation. But yeah, that great. Appreciate that. Yeah, but in general, I don't seem to be. Yeah, I remember back in the day, it didn't matter. You just nerds were all the same. They were happy. There wasn't any of this click stuff. But on the internet, it's all clicky and stuff, and I just don't fit in with these clicks. Oh, okay. Right. Cool. Cool. Yeah, it's an in-person con. That's never. I wouldn't go to an in-person con these days if I had the money to go. I I I thought about going out to that one in Minnesota, and I kind of wanted to, and then that was another experience where I remember, oh yeah, people in this thing, man, they're not always so friendly. You guys are nice. I ain't trying to be too down on it, but you know, I, I my memory is shit, and I got reminded that whole thing with trying to get out to the Arnie Con with Griff and all that reminded me of that when I went to Gen Con, it was generally fun. But the people that were clicky and hard to deal with were the people that were like Costigan and these guys, the designers. A lot of them, a lot of the big names, they were too big for their britches and they were douchebags. Um, a lot of them were. Dunnigan was cool. Gary was fine. Um, but there's some other people. I don't know if you know Frank Chadwick or ever heard of him. What an asshole. Uh, yeah, going to, but some of these got Mike Cook and these guys, you know, not nice. So, but it wasn't gonna. It just wasn't in the card. Now I forget his name, Carillion Rex or something. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Seems like a very nice man. Don't recall ever meeting him in person. Very kind. Uh, talked to me in depth, trying to work something out to give me a ride. But it wasn't in the cards because my geographical position versus his route to the con made that man would have had to go on a long way out of his way just to get me, and that's not fair. So, but he was very nice in trying to work with me. Not everybody's horrible, but I I remember now how many of the bigger names aren't very nice people. Right. But thing is, like, I don't know exactly where you were coming from, as far as geography, but I might as well be in the ass end of nowhere when it comes to, like, I'm nowhere near any of the interstates, or like if you're coming through Chicago or whatever, you got you got no reason to come where I'm at, to get out to the Twin Cities. It's a long way out of your way to come and get me, and I don't have a car, and that's my fault, of course. But it would be one thing if I had a car and I could go meet somebody in a relatively civilized area and carpool. But no, you got to come out to the sticks, and it, it's a it's a long reach for most people. And so I understand that. But there was one guy who was in a perfect position, and I don't want to I get yelled at when I use too many names on the tweet. And or on the live, which is true. I shouldn't be doing that, but his name, and he was a dick about it. you know. So here's the thing. I have a bad memory. That dude doesn't, because it has been decades. And as soon as he found out it was me, he went from yes to no in a heartbeat. Wow. Holy, talk about holding a grudge. And I don't deserve the negativity from the guy to begin with. He only recognized my face. Uh yeah. Yeah, he was a nice guy. He was a nice guy. I yeah. I'm gonna get in trouble if I say it so, but I think we all picked up on it. But I was like, this dude, why else would he say no if he didn't? There's no other to go from yes to no. After that, you must have recognized holy shit, son. It's been what, 30 years? Let me see. It was, let me get the math out. Well, whatever, something like that. Maybe that's a little hot. Whatever. Um, yeah, yeah. And I used to. I mean, every year I played with this cat, and I guess that's why he recognized you know. But I never complained. I loved playing that game with him. Um, I I all I did was I said, there's a lot of people in this organization who seem to prey on, and when I say prey, I mean in the game, on the noob, and it's really not very inviting. If you want, how people say, if you want people to play with you again, let them win or something like that. And these guys, what they would do is they would have this open game every year at Gen Con, Dawn Patrol game. And they would hype it to the general public. And it was a big game. There was 100 people. And the majority of them had never played the game before, or maybe once or twice. And these guys would just eat these people alive. And then that evening or Sunday night, they would have a dinner and they would give each other awards for kills. And and people are like, that's kind of an asshole thing. And they're like, well, that's the way it was in the war. And they're not wrong, but it just, they wouldn't help you learn the game because you were points on their ledger for the dinner the next night. And I brought it up to Mike, and I don't know that there's any other thing that he could possibly have said no to than that, because that's the only time I really did anything other than say, hey, this is great. How you doing this year? Where's my sheet? But anyway, either that or he's one of those political fanatics and he saw my timeline or something. I don't know. Maybe he heard my Costigan story. I don't know. But yeah, so that's where that went. I'm not, I don't try to be, I'm probably a hell of a lot more angry online than I ever was at any of these conventions. I was, pretty quiet and pretty gracious to, I never complained. I was there as a guest of TSR, the vice president. I didn't want to start any shit. Uh, yeah, I don't recall if I've ever met McGarry, but Weasley um, was a nice guy. Uh, yeah, 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 yeah. That one, Greg. Yeah. And that's the only, and I didn't even complain other than, you know, to nod when somebody else, the only thing, here's the problem, what happened with Greg is I was playing a game. It was a custom game um, about the Gulf of Sidra incident in Libya. And I was having fun, and as everybody else was, and we kind of, you know, we're making cracks about it, you know, and you know the way you game. And Koskin comes up and starts railing on Reagan and giving me this, you know, the typical leftist outlook of the mid '80s. And hey, sport, don't give a shit. Just having fun playing the game. I'm getting into the role, and shut up, you know. And then I saw him later because I knew Scott. Scott and I went to school together, so I was at places, you know, where I'd hang out socially with Scott, and I had run into him next time. It was a little awkward, but that was the, I've had some like some people just can't be friendly, and I had a couple of players that were kind of, you know, troublemakers at Gen Con. Generally, it was a good experience, but that was the only time that I can remember somebody going full out political on something, and it was Costigan, you know. So, and then the only other thing was I was always railing him about that stupid article he wrote about computer gaming and A Farewell to Hexes. I hated that. It was defeatist. Uh, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. See there, and there's a, you know, he don't like me. I don't know. He was relatively friendly at first, and then he didn't like something I said, and now he don't like me at all. Which is, I mean, okay, I don't care, but uh, wow, didn't take much for him to get snarky. But that's great. Glad you had fun. So I was at one point. Bill had encouraged me. He didn't encourage me. He says, if you want to see something old school, go out to GaryCon or something like that. And I thought about it, but I don't have a car, and I just, it ain't my thing. What I really want to do with these games, the reason I keep putting these games out and keep begging people to play is to me, the whole thing that Bill's doing is the whole reason I never joined Twitter starting to talk about RPGs or anything like that. You know, it wasn't until I saw the OSR thing, and I thought it meant that people were playing old games again, which that doesn't really seem to be what it means. So my mistake. But um, I had largely given up on RPGs. I couldn't get anybody to play, and I was hearing all the same shit that I hear now. You know, oh, complicated this and in the weeds that, and I don't hear that crap. Um, but I thought maybe that was over, and people were. I thought old school revival was what it was, and I thought that meant that they were going to go play. You know, oh, good, I can play my Star Wars stuff again. Oops. So anyway, it's been an education the last couple of years. I don't, maybe they don't. I don't think people, uh, I don't know. But he did, well, Rob did become snarky with me. So, you know, that's all right. And, but I don't start anything. And that Griff guy, I've never met him in my life, but I may, it probably was the wrong thing to say. I came on kind of strong. I didn't mean to be as aggressive as it came out, but he just goes, "Well, why don't you block me then?" So I did. Yeah. But that's not the first time he got snarky with me. So I blocked him, and then I took him off, and then but that's all right. He don't know me from Adam. He's got 10,000 followers. He don't give a shit. I don't even remember it. But so I don't think anybody likes. You don't think anyone? Well, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what to say to that. Well, I think it's this with him is that he does say he's diabetic. Sometimes that can be mood affecting. Sometimes I would exchange things with him and it would be fine and cordial or funny. And then there was a couple of times where the tone hadn't changed, but I think he was in a mood. And so then he got snarly. And I know people that are diabetic that happens. He said it himself. He says, sometimes I got to retract what I say because I need a Zagnut bar and I shouldn't be talking. But he got shitty with me and said, maybe you should block me. So I did. But this whole Twitter thing sucks ass. There's another guy that he went from like 3,000 or 4,000 to 10,000 while I'm celebrating that I gained 20 followers. So I may not be Mr. Personality, but I still think that Twitter's standing on my junk, So it's kind of I don't know why I keep spending money on this stuff. But anyway, the point is that what I started saying was before I knew Bill was doing a thing, that was really what I was looking for. I was looking for the idea of having kind of a constant online convention where I had several games that I really enjoy, and they were long, kind of open campaign, living world type of things that were always going on, filled with players playing. I was trying to sell that to people back several years ago, and I got all the usual words that I hate so much. So, but that was really why I keep bringing this stuff up, these games, because I just love to have those games, those worlds running all the time, and players coming and going and enjoying it. And that would be the hobby for me is that. Oh, with Griff, I don't remember what it was. He said something that pissed me off, but and Lord knows I can be a bitchy old bastard, but so I blocked him for a long time, and I go, here's what'll happen. I'll go through things and I'll go, I don't know. Hey, this person's on block, and I won't even remember why. So I took him off, and it was fine. One time he got all snotty with me over some stupid. Well, he started talking about gun control. Don't do that. So I started talking back, and it got a little weird. But I think most of it is, I just start getting tired of hearing everybody say everything's complicated all the time. And he's one of those that's always doing that shit, and shut up, So he started making videos, and I jumped on his video thread, and I says, I did this shit too. You're not any older than I am. And I didn't have any problem doing it. Something to that effect, whatever. He got all pissed off about it. Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, I jump on people the minute I hear them, and I shouldn't, because the whole reason that I'm not getting more follow, well, not the whole reason, but I am being suppressed. There's no doubt about it. I don't expect to be on top of the world with followership. Yeah. don't. Mm. So, excuse me, had a little bit of something in my uh, throat there. Um, but uh, but I don't. I just I don't think. God, that was scary. I was choking on something for a minute. But anyway, I see people join their, have joined for like a year, and they've got 3 or 4 times as many followers as I got. Like again, I know there's a lot. I'm not good at this stuff and all that. I get it, but do you know how many times I got the that warning from the German government thing that you used to get? Did anybody used to get those? Uh, from uh, before Elon ran the thing. Anyway, I just that means I've been suppressed. That's all I'm saying. So excuse me, I got to get something to wash that down. Pardon me. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. I don't know. I've divulged into complaints again. uh, I am looking at a new game though. Making one. Yeah. I mean, that's it. It just, again, I don't, like I say, I'm not saying I'm entitled to it or that I'm very good at enticing people to follow. But when you see in 6 months somebody jump a couple thousand ahead of you, it's not, at that point you go, yeah, there, something's got to be going on with my account. I got suspended a couple of times. One time I got suspended. This was way before Elon. I had a link to video of 2020 riots. This was like 2021. It was like 3 or 4 months after they were over. And the minute I'm not a big conspiracy guy or anything like that, but that machine knew because it happened immediately. The moment I posted the link to the riot video, it didn't even fully publish, and I immediately got like a 3 month suspension just for putting the link into the thing. And the other time I got suspended was I think I told somebody to go jump off a cliff or something like that. And some vindictive dude uh, reported me for suicide attempt or whatever, something like that. And I know how badly that messes up your account. Yeah, it does. It flutters back and forth on mine too. Sometimes it goes up to about, and that's the other thing. It's almost like it's throttled. I know there's a lot of bots and they keep trying to purge them and all that, but when I look at my analytics or whatever, it's very sharp peaks and valleys. It's nothing smooth, which to me, it looks to me like it went, nope, today you're going to get fucked because you said this or you did this or whatever. And it takes a sharp downturn. So I think I've got some sort of black mark on me, like a shadow ban or something. So it's frustrating because you're trying to use it for, you want to buy my game? Oh, great. Which one? I got a bunch now. The Paracosmic Convergence? Okay. I'll try hard to get that out. You'll be the first. Well, the second. That's great. But yeah, I mean, enough complaining about it. But I like I say, I don't know what I'm doing with the stuff, so I wouldn't get a lot of followers as it is. But when I look at the numbers, it just, I can, and the history, I know there's been some manipulation by the company. So it's frustrating. But, oh well. Uh, it's one of the reasons I made a forum. I made an old forum because I thought, I go, there's no algorithm on a forum, but nobody will do it. Oh well. And the Discord, I can't get anybody to communicate on that. I mean, I know we're playing the game and that's cool and all that, but as far as like general chat on a Discord, everybody seems to just join the channel and then hit mute, and they do that with most channels. I understand. Well, I sent some messages to Coulter that weren't very nice. I don't know that she saw them, but anyway, but I had some gal that was a voice actor follow me. And sometimes the people that follow me, I don't understand. I had this old ex-ball player follow me, and he's got hundreds of thousands of followers, and I'm not a jock. I have no idea. I mean, he's a big mega guy, but he followed me for like a week and then unfollowed me. So he probably, why the hell did I hit follow on this dude? Maybe it was a mistake. But every once in a while, I'll get somebody really weird. I had a mayor of a Spanish town following me for a long time. It wasn't a small town. It wasn't Barcelona, but it was a fairly big town. I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know what I couldn't put my head around. I go, why is this guy following? And then I had a Mexican reporter from the New York Times following me for a long time. And I was like, why the hell are you following me? So I don't get it. The whole thing doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, Paracosmic's coming out. Paracosmic, what I've done with it is I did a little revision. I wasn't the game's taking longer than I thought because I pretty much allowed myself to kind of get bullied by the whole AI thing. And so I kind of was at a conundrum. What do I do with that? How do I fix this? I can't afford the art. And so I wasn't sure where to go with it from that point. The other thing that slowed me down is formatting and who to publish it with, because I can't do it myself. And I went to look at what people, like, I didn't figure it out. I didn't know what I was doing. And I told people, they said, well, what do you need to get this published? And I said, well, money. Well, how much? And I said, well, I looked at how much it costs to print one book, and it's $20.49 and all this stuff. And here's all the other expenses. And then I went and found out there's another expense I didn't know existed with formatting. And there's people that wanted a couple $100 to format just, less than 300 pages. So I kind of painted myself in a corner that way. Then I went to Amazon, and that Alyssa, the little short brunette author chick, she said, use Amazon. There's a free way to do it. Okay. She goes, but the drawback is you have to use their software to format. Well, I already been trying to do it on Word and some other things. So then I was trying to figure out how to use that software. Well, now she's come back, and several other authors who follow me said, well, Amazon's changed their policy and now they suck. Oh, and I went and looked at it, and they go, yeah, now they do. So now I'm back to Lulu. Yeah, use Grok. So I did get um, some some black ink sketches, and but as far as a cover, it looks like it's going to have to be AI. Then I went and I saw the Red Room doing it, and they're using AI, and nobody's, I mean, I understand they're blacklisted from certain things because of whatever, but nobody seems to be busting their balls over using AI, in their stuff. So I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do it. So, yeah, the word templates. So I have a lady doing it. My co-host is doing it. So we're getting there, but she's got a lot of health problems right now. She's pretty sick. So hopefully she'll get better, and then we can get back to that and finish it up and use the ink drawings. But as far as the cover, it's going to have to be AI. And if that may be a disadvantage, as far as selling, but it's the best I can do. Everybody kept saying, "Oh, well, just go get some, some royalty free or whatever." And then they give me a link to some of that stuff, and I was like, if I'm going to use that, I might as well draw it myself. That stuff is all completely horrible. Or it's some archaic medieval tapestry painting that, doesn't really have anything to do with the, it's not. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've got a version that can convert. Uh, yeah. Apparently, I appreciate that. Apparently, it's a service that, like, I went to Fiverr, and that's where I saw people charging hundreds, and those were private people. If I looked at a couple of like website services, holy shit, I couldn't believe what they wanted for that. Yeah, but I'm out of touch. I went to a computer repair place the other day, and when the guy told me he was getting $100 an hour, I about fell on the floor. I but I guess that and I thought about it. I go, okay, I guess that makes sense. But I asked my mechanic who's got a good wrench certification. I says, "What do you get an hour?" And he says 65. Jesus Christ. Well, Magenta's been a long-term friend, so she volunteered to do it, and God bless her for it. She's very nice to offer. It's not her fault, but she's got diabetes and some other issues, so she was doing it, and then she's deathly ill. I mean, I don't think she's going to die, but I think she feels like it right now, so she just hasn't been able to do it. She's been that way on and off for quite some time. She tried to play with us, and she just couldn't keep up. Just gets too sick too often. So she was doing it, and then she had to bow out. So, but yeah, I'll talk to you about it if you're willing to do it. But I just looked at what people are getting money wise for that stuff. Ain't cheap. Wow. But I did it. I did a couple of changes though. I told myself, don't be swayed by the whims and complaints of people online. That's a mistake that I've made before. But the whole complexity thing it's such this constant loud roar from so many people that I thought, I don't know, man, maybe I got to take another look at this. So I changed a couple of things. And so everything is kind of like a well, not everything, but the combat's kind of a 1-to-100 deal. Instead of having a ton of hit points or different hit points for different things, where everybody's got a health level of 1-to-100. but but um, size and armor and all that mitigates the damage. So if you're somebody like if you're a human, but you're trying to hack away at a brontosaurus or some giant dragon, the size scale difference changes how much damage you do. So in essence, it has more hit points, but as far as the numbers that you have to use as a player and or a DM, they always stay 1 to 100 for ease, just to keep things simple. And that allows me to use the same charts for other genres like war games and things like that. So I don't think it's going to make everybody happy because they're going to see it and go, wow, like if you want to shoot a gun at somebody, it's like there's subtraction involved. And I think that's going to make a lot of people mad. And they're going to say that's unwieldy or complicated, but I think it's a lot simpler than what I was doing before. So, but I don't know. We'll have to see if people like that or not. But that's where I went. But so it's very different in that realm. It doesn't have strength and dexterity and charisma attributes. The attributes are different. They're not rated the same way and all that. It's a little bit of a different vibe. So and then I still got so much heat, or I just hear people all the time, like Bill talking about how hard tactics are. What was the other one he went? Oh yeah, he went all into how hit locations are complicated. And I really like the hit location charts. But the people were so loud about that stuff. I go, I don't know that it's so bad. I had to, people might not like it. Oh man, it never ends. And it's like, oi. The hit table thing. Why is that complicated? Like that somebody put out the hit table thing from OD&D, and some people were talking about it like it was some sort of foreign language, and I thought, what in the hell is so hard about this? Okay, if you don't want to play with it because you think it slows down the game, that's one thing. But it's not like it's not written in English. I don't get what's so complicated about understanding it. But some people act like it's and I'm just flabbergasted by that. And when you say that, people go, well, he's an arrogant person. He thinks he's smarter everybody. But that's the whole point. I don't. And that's why I don't get why it is. When I hear people complain about basic math, I go, I know you're a grown man. Some of you I've known before. Why are you acting like doing something that I did when I was 14 is now hard for us when we're 50? That's, I'm not saying I'm a genius. Yeah, I mean, I looked at the SRD for for fifth edition when it first came out. That was it. I mean, maybe it hadn't first come out because SRDs come later, but I looked at it and I go, oh yeah, okay, whatever. And now, like, I never bought any of that stuff. The closest thing I've had to experience with 5e as far as gameplay is I played Baldur's Gate with Magenta because she wanted to play it. She got it for Christmas and she wanted to play with somebody. So, okay, fine. And I thought, if I had to play this system on paper, how the F is that easier than 78? Huh? No. Okay. So this is one of those old guy things, and I mean, I don't want to sound like I do enough of the cloud shouting and all that stuff. But the thing is that um, I look at it this way. I think one of the best analogies. Well, I shouldn't say the best. It's my favorite analogy, but I found out it doesn't work with a lot of people because it didn't apply. But like when I went from an Atari joystick to that Nintendo control, the original NES controller, I had Defender on Atari, and I could wail on that shit for hours. I was really good. And then I got Defender, that Bally Midway or whatever compilation cartridge for NES, and had Defender on it. I sucked. I was awful, and it was the same game because it was a totally different way of manipulating the game with the NES pad. And I hate that fucking NSA. I mean, for years I would just go, I hate this controller. These controllers suck now. But after a while, you got used to the controller and you got into it and you started playing Nintendo more than Atari, and then you got good. And the analogy is that back in the day, there was a lot of war games and other games that had that negative system. So it was easy to take it and translate it to D&D, and it made perfect sense to do it. In fact, I did a tweet joking about it. I says, I told this one guy, I said, you're trying to change the hobby because just because we learned that way. And what you're saying is counterintuitive to you is counterintuitive to the people that have been playing it before you, because it made sense to go negative based on all those other games we were playing, which none of you play. So it's just, it's like double click or right click drop down menu on Windows. My dad will open every file by right clicking and hitting open on the drop down. And I go, that's a pain in the ass. And I said, why don't you double click? And he goes, that's a pain in the ass. So, but it's just two different paths to the same destination. So but I get it. If you didn't grow, if you didn't play other games where it made sense to have negatives, it doesn't make sense to have it in D&D either. So I get it. Yeah. Yeah. But that's why there's that generational rift, and you just can't do math and all that stuff. Michael, I think I don't want to sound like Mr. Elite Player guy or anything like that, but I honestly think sometimes that's what it is. I think some people look at hit charts and they go, that means I'm going to die or I'm going to become an invalid. And I don't want to lose my character, even if they're a guy that otherwise will go out and be like, oh, you pussies, we die at HP 0, but really, but like when Bill jumped on me, when I first brought that up and he jumped on me, the thing that got me mad isn't that he didn't like the idea. It's that he immediately assumed that I was talking only, and I guess it makes sense because he's got a show about AD&D, but he immediately assumed that the only way to implement it is the way that it was done in D&D, or that's what I was talking about. And there was other places that did that, that were different, and it changes things considerably. What I was going to do with it for Paracosmic is it was going to be the 2-hit. It wasn't going to be, I have to roll to hit. Now I want to roll to see where it is. No, it was going to say, one roll. You were going to have so many spaces that were amiss, and the rest of the spaces were going to be places on the body that hit. And then you roll damage after that. And I couldn't, by the time I got all that out onto chat, Bill had moved on and all that. So, but that was the difference thing I was going to do with it. But I had some people say, don't do it. They said, here's the thing. If you put all that in the book, people will shit because they'll have to page through it to look at those diagrams. If you make it look like some diagram or some silhouette of a person, And they said, if you're going to do it, put it in charts. But if you're going to do it for every different type of body type, now what you're going to do is hand people pages worth of charts, and they're going to get pissed. And that makes sense to me. I go, yeah, I could see that. Even if it's a simple idea, if it comes with a book of different things you have to flip through, people will go, this game takes forever. I got to flip through them. But we used to just take those things and photocopy them. Like I'd come with a war game that would have in the back, it would have all the stats for all the tanks. And shit, I got to go through all those. No, what am I playing with? I'm playing with a Sherman and an M10. And on the other side, the Krauts have Mark IVs and one Mark VI. Okay. So I just photocopy all of that shit and give it as a package to the German player. So all he has to do now is see the stuff that's relative to the scenario instead of paging through the book. So sometimes when people give me all that crap about all these games take too long and they use excuses like that, all it did was just a little bit of foresight and preparation changes that complaint. It fixes the problem. And then when I hear people go, when they hear that solution and they still don't like it, that means that what they're saying is they really don't like the game. It isn't about where the charts are in the book and shit like that. They're just trying, So that's why I get so wound up about complexity and in the weeds and all those cliches, because I've been talking about these games since the 70s with people, whether it be in person or BBS or forum or whatever. And so many people use those phrases, and so many times it's just a way to run down the game you like or run you down. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's one of these, like Bill, I'm not wasting brain power on this stupid argument. You don't know what you're talking about. That's all unplayable shit. And then telling you that you look dumb or that what you're saying is dumb instead of addressing it. It just ends up being kind of mudslinging, and that's why I get pissed about it. Right, Dave. That's one of the ones that I'm. Yeah, I can never remember aces and eights. That's the one. Yeah, I like the old 40K. Nobody else did, but I like the old 40K one where you had the grid. And you roll the two dice, and then you cross-reference the grid, and that's where everybody else hated it. I thought it was clever and neat, but maybe that did slow the game down. I still thought it was kind of cool. I agree, Michael, and that's what that was kind of the deal with the negative. So it's just if you. I mean, if we as kids learned the alphabet backwards, it would make perfect sense to say it backwards 20 years later. And if people start saying it forwards, you'd look at them like that doesn't make any sense. So it just that we learned with it that way. Right, and there's the other thing. If it's higher, it should be better, because big numbers mean better, mean more powerful and stuff like that. So it's just the way you get taught and the outlook that it presents to you as you're being taught it. Yeah. I'm jacked up on caffeine. I got to go out and find out. I had somebody come in here and yell at me because they say the problem with this. Here's another problem with my streams is the person that I live with. If they hear any emotion in my voice, they translate that to volume. Even if I have a phone with a decibel meter, so that because I'm in an apartment, she's afraid of noise complaints, and so I have to maintain this damn near monotone voice when I do these lives, or they come in going, "You're going to get us kicked out." I laughed heartily at something a couple days ago, and they're like, "I don't know if you can stay here because you're too loud." And I wasn't laughing like some obnoxious hyena really loud. It's just that they seem to think that emotion means volume. So I got them barging on the door on me, because I was having fun talking. So, and I think that translates to the viewership. When people come in and they listen to me, I sound like I'm Robbie Robot because I don't want to upset my roommates, and then nobody thinks I'm very fun to listen to. So I think that's one of the things that's hurting me. And I don't. There's no there's no compromise. I'm not on the lease and they are, so I have to play. You know what I mean? It's not good. Uh, well, and that's another thing about as far as it's hard to do aces and eights. Um, right. If you have PNGs and overlays, there's you can um, import them into Tabletop Simulator fairly easily. Um, it's a little bit more difficult if you want to cut the PDF into some sort of custom shape, but it can be done. Right. Well, and that's the thing. Armor class is not something that was invented by those guys. That's a phraseology that was um, grafted out of war games from the late 60s and early 70s. Guys like Featherstone and Bath and Quarry and all that, they're British people, and they always used armor class as a term, uh, for tank warfare and stuff like that. So they didn't come up with that thing. They used it. It's not they didn't steal. It's not like an IP theft, but yeah, that's not their terminology. Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. You're right. They do. Now, the neighbors that I'm attached to, I don't think that it's a problem. I think that I'm far enough away from the exterior wall and I'm facing away from the exterior wall. The problem is that the people who are letting me stay here, they spend most of their time on the other side of an interior wall that I'm talking right into. So they hear me through that wall and they go, well, if I can hear it through a wall, it must be too loud. But the fact is that interior wall has virtually nothing, I might as well be talking right in their ear. So when they hear me laugh or speak with emotion, they he's really in there yelling. So plus they know I'm an angry guy. That a lot of times they think that if they hear emotion, I must be yelling and arguing with people. So and um, I got in an argument with my ex-wife on the phone one time in here. Bad me. So they're like, oh, we don't want that to happen again. But yeah. But the problem with doing it too early, I tried starting at 7 o'clock, and it was just all these bigger, guys like Bill and stuff that have a bigger followership. Nobody's going to change the channel to watch me. And if you do it too early, nobody's home from work. And if you do it too late, everybody's asleep. So, and we tried to do recordings, and we sucked at it. And I understand people go, well, it just takes practice. But somebody came on and they're like, I watched one of those. It sounds like you're reading off a page, because I was I was reading a script off a page. Right, and that's it. That's another thing. The TV's going off. Then all of a sudden it sounds louder because you can actually hear it, because sound displaces other sound and stuff like that. That's true. So, but and it's worse when you're playing game. I used to do DM here, like I was DMing Greyhawk, and I probably sounded like a super boring DM because I couldn't do any voices, or I couldn't have any excitement or fun with the thing. I had to talk to you like I was your school teacher, and because I couldn't have any inflection. Probably bored the hell out of my players. So the solution is get a life and get a job and get your own house and stuff like that, which I'm trying to do, but I'm I got all sorts of messes. Not everybody wants to hear my problems, but you know, it doesn't happen overnight. So there it is. But yeah, I'm doing the Paracosmic. We'll get it put out, and then I did this. I I wrote this thing last night because I just thought I'm never going to stop hearing the shit. The minute I go, okay, I think I've said enough about complexity and all that. The next thing I see is Sandy Peterson going, well, RuneQuest used to take 45 minutes a turn for combat. Bullshit, it did. And if it took you 45 minutes to do a round of combat, you must have been taking a 10-100 break in the middle of it or whatever. It wasn't that hard. Jesus Christ. So I thought, well, this is never going to stop. So I'm going to do something that's so absurdly basic that it would like almost to the point of being asinine. So I did it. I made one that's just this really quick synopsis of fantasy. I'll be happy if it's successful, but in a way I'll be kind of pissed. So if it takes off, but I thought I'd do it with an open, like a licensing thing, because it's all about custom. Like I'm not putting a bunch of monsters in it. I'm putting in a way for you to make monsters yourself through a rating system. So you kind of like there's very little in the way of stats for this stuff. So it's real easy to come up with the stats and just go, I want to make a Jabberwocky or a Chupacabra or Nessie or whatever the hell you want. And you can do it yourself just with a few lines of writing. And the same with magic. I'm not making magic books. You make the magic books. Here's 3 categories of magic. Now, and you kind of come up with a custom spell. And part of the custom spell is explaining what it looks like and, stuff like that when you cast it. So there's 3 categories. There's impulse, there's change, and there's destruction. And then from there, you just, how what's the range of it? What's the effect of it? To some degree, it's tempered with power. You can't just go, well, it's a nuclear bomb. It kills everybody everywhere with a touch of the button. No, you can't do that. It's got a way of scaling it, but you come up with the rest of it, and then you describe what it looks like when people do it. There you go. So everything's custom that way, and you can just make up everything you want there. Yeah. I went with 3 just because I tried to keep everything. I just wanted this thing to be as like insanely simple. They're psionics, but they're super simple. The combat is like you compare 2 numbers and roll a die. If you want more like if a GM decides, well, you know what, you're behind this wall, so that should mean something, then they can, apply some modifier that they feel is necessary, But as far as the rules, just super ridiculously simple. I bet you it'll be the most popular thing I make. But none of it might be popular, but well, that's another thing I don't get to do anything of anymore and haven't done for a long time. That makes me feel bad is more reading. And I mean, I've got the books. I couldn't bring them in here. I have to keep them in a storage facility, and I can go get one, but I you got to beg for a ride and all that stuff. But I should grab a couple and read them. What I've got right now is just a couple of books. But if I bring too much stuff into the house, they get mad, and I don't blame them. You know, I'm kind of wearing out my welcome. So yep. Do you see that? I can look the guy up. Try to read what happens if I put this way. Do you see that? Yeah. Well, it's proofread. But thank you. It's proofread, but it's the formatting uh, for the Lulu. That's the problem. And I started down that path, but then and it's not her fault. But that Alyssa chick said, she goes, you really here's this special way of doing it through Amazon that's free. Well, now that turns out not to be the deal anymore. So, but you had to format it different because they had different printer machines or whatever. But yeah, that would be great to make it fit into the parameters or the margins or whatever, all that stuff. So a lot of it required redoing the charts because I was writing some of the stuff out in LibreOffice, and then I got rid of that because I got tired of it. And then I was doing some in Office 97 and all that, So the formatting was all messed up. So I had to rewrite a lot of get the columns to fit and all that shit. Yeah, I got those, but I just like when you load Office 97 charts into Office 2000, they say it's going to work. It'll work except for this one place. I don't know, there'll be one little thing, enough to fuck it up so that you gotta kind of end up doing it by hand one way or the other. So I had to do a lot of that and all that stuff. So, but yeah, I've got the templates. It just didn't want. Yeah, it would be like it would do every column except this one. It's like that happened a lot, or it would, everything would be in the right place, but then it would put one row mushed together with another. Well, what's going on? And then you have to go and unravel it and all that shit. So there's a lot of that. But I did proofread as far as spelling and all that. But I had to do grammar too, because sometimes I'm pretty backwards with that. So, yeah, it's bad. And then I got two fingers on my left hand that shake a lot. They don't want to work the right way. So I look like a real dummy when I type. I look like I'm dyslexic. It's really embarrassing, but it's damage from the service. So I got lots of damage, brain damage, liver damage. I used to drink a lot. I don't anymore. I don't drink at all. But I used to drink a lot. Thank God I stopped. Yeah. You have to figure out. Maybe I can do that. Yeah. So, but it's largely put together. So, but I don't know how people are how receptive they'll be to the count backwards from 100 thing all the time, because that's what you're doing. It's either that or it's hit location. And I don't think a lot of people like that either. But I think it's great. The other thing I like about hit location is if you cut, like, you can sever somebody's arm. So, like, you know, wading into a horde of orcs where you're like chopping their hands off and shit. That's great. I think that's fun. And so that can happen. But you can die super fast. I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. That makes sense. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's a lethal game. I wanted it to be a very lethal game. I made an adjustment so that people who get into this, well, hit points are for heroic fantasy, and you shouldn't be, you you're like a movie hero villain or a movie hero villain. That's brilliant. A movie hero character, type of thing, and you shouldn't die so easily. And okay, so all I did was just, when you play heroic fantasy, the damage being dealt isn't as high a number as when you're not. So people don't die as easy and stuff like that. So instead of having, this guy's got 300 hit, so it makes people have to take a different assessment of monsters and enemies, instead of just going, well, how many hit dice does this thing have or whatever, and that's really all you need to know. Now you kind of have to know what it is and understand, it's a little bit more detail and stuff like that. It can't, you just can't, you won't know how easy or hard it is to kill until you start trying to. So it's neat that way. But there are modifiers, and there is some, not heavy stuff, like you got to subtract stuff like that, but it's in there. So I don't know how if people say it'll go fast or slow or whatever. There's a couple videos of me and Magenta playing it, and I might turn those off because they're not going to help my case. But the thing is she was so sick with flu. She was all cold medicined up, and so it took her a long time to do something that would normally not take her a long time. But she's like, no, you got to do a show. You can't just keep canceling. And so she did like 3 shows when she was first starting to get really sick with the flu. And, God bless her for, but it doesn't make it look very good. So, but that's why I was hoping to get more people to play it, or get her to play it again when she's, feeling better, so people can see that it doesn't drag on forever. But it was us playing Star Wars with it, so you can kind of get a feel for it. But for how the mechanics works. But as far as the time, she was a record running at the wrong speed because she was so sick. So, but yeah. But it's all written out. Just needs to get in the right format for printing. We'd love to do a couple of live plays to get people's attention before we, print it. But at this point, some people have been waiting a lot longer than they expected, a lot longer. So we should just get it out and hope for the best. It's not that it hasn't been play tested at all. It's been play tested. It's just, you always want to give it that one last walk around, no matter how many times you do it. Eventually, you just got to go shut up and ship, So, but yeah, if you want to help, that we would appreciate that. So, the other one that I'm doing, this next one, it's a pamphlet. I could write it on a cocktail napkin. And then I'm going to do a bunch of other things. If this stuff has any popularity at all, I'll try doing other things that I've written. I've written several others. But there's no point. Just keep putting out games if it's clear that your stuff isn't hitting with people. So we'll see. I just wish I could get more people to play these games online. It would really be trying to promote this business on the internet has done nothing but make me a bigger sourpuss than I already was. And to no real effect because trying to sell stuff on Twitter is pissing into the wind. Yeah, it's really here's the two things about that. I it the AI it was great and I wanted to use it, but the AI wouldn't put it in like just a frame that I could download. It only put that in a picture of a book. So I couldn't make it. Even if I wanted to make it the cover, I can't. I couldn't get the damn thing to repeat the pattern to put it in a picture. So it only ends up being for promotional. But it was one of two that were really great that I couldn't get the thing to extract right. So if I'm going to use AI, I've got, where did I put that thing? I have one other that's like a dragon that I thought was pretty cool. It was like a dragon attacking a castle. And some people didn't even know it was AI. So I thought, well, I wouldn't lie because you just, people find out and then you really sound like a schmuck. But I just thought if it doesn't instantly look like AI, that would be great. Can you see this shit? Because I can't. Okay. But yeah, where the hell was that? It was a great one, which I'll end up probably having to use. Oh, here it is. Boy. It's really nice of these people to let me stay at their place, but I hate being treated like a child about this stuff. I'm going to go out there and they're going to start. It's a dude that I'm staying with, but he's got a girlfriend and she acts like she don't even live here, but you can't tell her to what you want to tell her. I just hate that. But hey, I could be on the street, so I shouldn't be talking smack. But anyway, oh yeah, let's get it. Let's see. Stop screen. Here is. Let me get the. Yeah, it wouldn't. It just. That's all it would do. I couldn't get it to like this was the closest to a pattern I could get off of it. So then I went looking and I thought maybe this one would do good. Get it there. Takes me, I got such a big hard drive, finding this stuff is hard. I just saw it. Now I can't find it. But it's a pretty neat dragon. I guess I got to go to the right folder. I thought this was the right folder, though. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, here it is. There we go. I'll put it up here. Now it's loading. This one. That's the one I was going to go with. Right. Yeah. I gotta take it, but I don't want, I gotta listen to her talk her shit, because it's his girlfriend. I'll try sending you a copy. Yeah. If I had Photoshop, I think maybe I could, there's that way you mess with the tilt. So But yeah, but I really do like the one on the book. I think that would be the best one. But this is the only other one I thought. Yeah, yeah, I do too. I would prefer that if I can get it to work. Yeah, it 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 captures the title. It goes with the title better. That's the whole point. The imagined realms. That's what paracosm means. Convergence. The three different you know worlds. Right with one. There was another one that was even better, but it didn't. It the damn chat GTP crashed and I never got it back. But it was awesome. It had like cosmic hallways and stairs going to different dimensions and planets all in this. It was even better. It was perfect because I have this whole concept about having dimensional doors and stuff, and this thing did it perfectly. And I went to touch it to download it, and it crashed. And ChatGTP had some huge aneurysm. I had to wait 2 days to get the thing back. And when I access to it, when I came back, it didn't load that picture. Fuck. That's what you get for $20. But it was the best out of them. But this one will do. If I can get that to be put on the face of a book, it'd be perfect. No, that's the thing. It's all the only two times it did it with the words on the. I didn't tell it to make the book. It just did that on its own. But yeah, there's that version of it, and then there's a zoom in of it. I think I've got both here. This is the other version of it. Yeah. Those are the only two. But kind of a bummer. And then I haven't even got into the post-apocalyptic, all the worlds that I made for this thing. Some of them are just kind of framework, but others are fully fleshed out. So the framework, I got like 60 of them. They got a title, they got a basic synopsis, they've got an explanation of what the realm is like as far as general terrain and who occupies it. And then it's got a chart or a terrain generator. And then you take that framework and you can fill it out as to what you want. And then we got the ones we made where we've got the name of everything, and it has the government and all that. We called it world building. We've got a couple of videos that we put out, 2 or 3 at least, where it's just us talking about the world, literally just creating it as we're on live. So we've got those. I got this one. I've got 2 that are based off of Earth. I've got one where I just kind of took the Roman Empire and made it kind of a fantasy thing, which is kind of a trope. There's a lot of people that have done that. I think kind of isn't Harn Master kind of that. So it was kind of a rip-off deal. But I just wanted to do it. And then the other one was I took Pangea and just said, okay, everything in world history, all the mythology is real. Kind of, and it's kind of this is before American Gods, but if I told you people about it now, you mean, oh, you mean like American Gods? Well, kind of, but Zeus is real and Minotaurs are real and all that, but it's not our current globe. It's the old Pangea supercontinent. and then the rest are all there's like well, they're not all fantasy. There's fantasy and sci-fi and stuff like that. And then there's my little childhood section, which is like its own little mini galaxy. And I can't use any of the, the TV titles, obviously, but it's kind of like there's a modern 80s one where you can like do A Team or MacGyver or whatever you want. It doesn't have to be 80s, but, uh, and there's kind of a Star Wars one. I mean, if you like, I can't sell you Star Wars, obviously, but if you want to play Star Wars in there, which is what I'm going to do, there you go. So it's got all that stuff. So was basically, somewhere I had a map. It didn't come out very well, but I had the thing do a map. See if I can show you that. I think this is it. Uh-oh, is it not working tonight again? Boy, for $20, I sure get a lot of downtime. Yep. Well, anyway, I had this one big map of it, the whole galaxy. So that's what it's going to be. It's not, you're not getting a world or two. You're getting a universe with different galaxies in it. So that's what you get with the whole thing. Eventually, I can't put it all in one book, but those are my plans for the worlds that come with it. And that's without, then you have a generator itself where you can just generate any world you want. Hell, you can generate a whole campaign or a whole one shot with it. So, but I don't. Here's the thing: I don't show that stuff on the screen because I there's people in the wings, waiting to copy. So I had one outfit come to me and say they wanted to publish it, and then I found out they had a different angle. They were kind of on a, it's a long story, but uh, they were. I've I've seen people that say, "Hey, this is worth something," so I know it's worth something. How much or how many really want to do it? That's another question. But yeah, so but yeah, that's where I'm at. The rest of the things I don't, as far as this chat uh, show, I'd just love to make it a bunch of. Wow, that's awesome. That's pretty cool. Ooh, that looks pretty good. I like the bottom one. Here, let me see if I can get that on screen. Yeah, check that out. That's showing up on the screen. Yeah, I like that. That looks pretty good. They both look good, but I like if I was going to pick one, I'd do the second one. Yep. It in a lot of ways, the Chat GTP image generator thing seems like it's getting worse. When I first started using it a year ago, I mean, it would mess a lot of things up. But when it finally, it didn't take as long for it to like get it that it does now. Yeah, those are pretty cool. The only, I mean, I appreciate that. That's very nice, and they look good. The only thing is they like I don't really buy into the whole stealing art, but but copying styles. Obviously, it's doing, and I know that that's a style of sci-fi art from the '70s. I've seen stuff like that, and I that's the only thing that concerns me about those ones with the floating chunks of land. But my memory isn't good enough to remember the artist in question, but I know that I've seen a guy that did a lot of that kind of stuff back in the day. I saw it on, but other than that, you know, yeah, yeah, that's, and I can't, you guys remember all that stuff. Too much whiskey and marijuana and shit. I, thank God I stopped all that stuff. I didn't have to go to anonymous anything, but when I got out of the army, I sure beat the hell out of my brain. Right. I agree. That's the other thing. You know, I, thanks for hanging out though, Michael. Yeah. Got to get up and move around. Yeah. He was big. He was kind of late 70s, mid 70s stuff. I've seen stuff like that. I mean, it must be mid 70s, right? Because I swear I've seen it on the side of a van. But yeah, that's cool. I just don't, I like, you know, you can't like you can't copyright style, but you don't want too many people to go I don't know, maybe it won't come up. It's so old, maybe most people won't even make the association. It looks great. um, I don't know, it's not copyrightable, so it doesn't really matter. And it really does look good. So I like the bridge work, the connections, because I thought that was a good vibe, because I was looking for the connections, because it's you're not, if you make your own stuff, you're not required to in the game rules, but you're highly encouraged. I wrote in there, highly encouraged to kind of make a tapestry of different dimensions and worlds and stuff like that. Because that's what I did with all my custom stuff, and I put them in different categories and made them different galaxies. So, like, and then there's a whole superhero thing. So if you go to the superhero part, it's a wormhole, and it takes you to a totally different area that's a multiverse, so that people that play MC and Marvel or whatever, and all that stuff, they can have their multiverse. But it's like a whole, you have to go through this wormhole. If you start somewhere else, you can start there, but it's connected to everything else through this. So it's more difficult to, it's not totally isolated, but it's somewhat isolated. So there's there's all these different sections. So the point of the paracosmic is to be, I don't need anything else. It's supposed to be monopolistic in that there's no genre it can't do, and it's got enough. Eventually, we'll have enough material that you can literally, you know, explore an entire universe. Which, I mean, universe is kind of a exaggeratory, because it's only about 60 planets, but it's more than most people can do. That's pretty cool too. Yeah, yeah. I like the airships. Is those spaceships look like big blimps, like zeppelins. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Sometimes Grok gets it, and sometimes Grok doesn't. I tried to get Grok to make Trump a DM, and it just kept putting Trump in a black bathrobe. It wouldn't do it, and I don't know why that is, but maybe it's not supposed to. I don't know, but I couldn't get him to do Trumpy. I wanted to do that whole thing. I was going to do that as a promotion for my little small game, you, and like have a whole Trump statement like, this is fantastic simplicity. Nobody does simplicity like me. In fact, that kind of thing, the way he talks. And then I was going to have a picture of him dressed as like a dungeon master or whatever. And it just wouldn't do it. It kept putting him in his robe. One time it made him dress like a wizard, but he was holding this weird thing and it kind of looked, I didn't like the way it looked. But the wizard outfit looked great. It looked like something Jimmy Page would wear on stage. It had all the moons and the stars and shit on it. It was great. So I gave up on that. And I went with the caveman thing instead. That didn't come out very well either. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just not very good at prompts. That might be it. I don't know how to use the words to make it do what I want, but those are cool. I don't. I mean, like here's the thing. What do you know? Bear, the big Canadian guy, Bear, that's on YouTube. He said this. He's like, look, don't worry about the AI shit. If people, he says, people that say they weren't going to buy your game because of AI, they weren't going to buy it anyway. I was like, yeah, okay, that's not, I mean, okay, right. And then like 2 hours later, he said to somebody else, he goes, oh yeah, if you put AI in your material, you're going to get blackballed by half the. Uh, I was like, well, which one is it, dude? Because I'm trying to figure out. So, but I think, you know, I think it's okay. What are you going to do? I thought I'd tell people, look, maybe next time, well, if this is good stuff, maybe next time I won't have to resort to AI because I'll have some money in pocket. But right now I'm doing this with only a few $100, so what do you want me to do? I go get, most people say, well, go get more money. Well, you go I can't get more money. If I could get more money, I wouldn't need to do this. I just use the money and go get an apartment or something. I ain't got time for Kickstarter. These people want me to move. I can't wait another year for that. I mean, that's what I hear, Kickstarter. But I don't have any money. Like, Kickstarter takes money too. It ain't free. you know? So, yeah, it would be fun to play a Star Trek thing. So I'll just tell you the Star Trek thing. I mean, I won't give it away just in case we do get people, but I don't. I kind of give up on that shit. But all I did was, it's kind of cliche, but I thought, well, Star Trek often is. And it was just, you're in a starship near the neutral zone when some shenanigans start. And depending on the course of that game, it may lead to an escalation. And that was going to be the start of a large military campaign. But I just can't. I can't get anybody to do it. I told one guy, and one guy, he's mad. I think he just gave up on me because I told him, hey, we got some people to play. Hey, let me know. And then it never materialized, and he never hears from me. So I don't know. But and Magenta would play, but and it's not her fault, but she just can't be relied upon because she's either sick or she has familial issues. So, and I can't find anybody else to do it. But otherwise, I totally do it. I do Star Wars too, but I just can't get people to do it. I'm probably very boring as a DM. It's probably part of the problem. Oh, did you want to know? Uh, did you want to know what the the Greyhawk thing, seeing that kind of fell apart? Do you want to at least know the story about that? I could tell you what it is. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to play it again, right? So, are you curious about that? Because I like that was the whole thing. Oh, yeah, yep. So that was the deal there. Well, anyway, it was Well, I won't tell you. Maybe we'll pick it up someday. I won't want to be a spoiler alert. But thanks for the picks. Maybe we'll use some of those instead. So I'm on the I'm making replies because. Oh, did you want to hear that? Yeah. Okay. So here's the. I forget. I have to wait. Like it. Honestly, it seems like it's getting longer every time I do these lives. I should really look into that. I don't know how to though. It it says that the speed is the same as it always is, but every time it's longer before people reply to me. Um, but anyway, um, so what the thing was is uh, I talked to I forget his name, but he's a huge. I think he calls himself Greyhawk Groganard. I think that was the guy I talked to. Anyway, it was one of these super Greyhawk streamer guys that had the whole map and I says he was talking about um, the war in Greyhawk and how a lot of people felt that's really where things kind of jumped the shark, where the non TSR people started to really mess it up. And uh, and I like a campaign that has war in it. So I took a survey. Anyway, long story short, I took a survey and I had a bunch of people say the majority of the people said, yeah, that's kind of that time frame is when things kind of went. Eh. So what I did was when I was writing the thing up, I was watching Rob Coons go, these people and what they're saying, really going after them and all this stuff. So um, there's the cult, the cultist people, though that's WotC and their sparkle trolls, and they've come from a different dimension or whatever, and they've turned uh, they're trying to co-opt Greyhawk, uh, and they took over the forces of evil in Greyhawk and used them as puppets to try to spread their cult and all that. So there's actually clones of everybody, like like the person that you were being sent on the quest from, the guy with the ponytail in the bar, that was Roblar. And I don't know about hopefully Rob won't get mad, but I just assumed he wouldn't care. And because it's just a character and he doesn't have, you know, it's Watsy's got it or whatever, but it was him. And the idea is that you were supposed to redirect the timeline and battle the cultists that have a hold of the forces of evil from the original Greyhawk. But there's a clone of everybody. So I've had some of the characters in there one was patterned after Griffin, Griff Morgan. One was patterned after Gary. One was patterned after Gary's brother. There was Roblar, and there was clones of every one of them. And they were so everything that Roblar did after TSR was bought out. That was the clone. So what you were supposed to do is stop that and kind of set everything right and keep the whole thing in balance, because instead of having the evil kind of almost overtake everything in, like, what was that, 75, 73 or 4 or whatever it was. So that was the general gist. And your guy had the Falstaff the priest had memories of some of the co-opting going on and some of the details, not all of them, but enough to just kind of further the story along and send you on more of a quest and kind of figure out that there were some things that you had to, some wrongs that you had to right along this timeline. So that was the general gist of it. I don't have the notes in front of me. But that battle that you were in was kind of the beginning of the fight. I forget. My old ass is going to. But it was Avery Meadows or Ivory Meadows, or how you pronounce that. It was that battle. That was what you were watching go on. And when Robler released the demon, that was kind of the beginning of Watsy taking over. So you're supposed to try to stop that and all that too. So you were going to end up going to Castle Greyhawk and all that sort of stuff. Emery Metals. Nice. I kept saying Ivory Metals. Emery Metals. That was what it was. That was the battle that you were not involved in, but you went up to that battle line of, it was the gnomes, and you camped out there and all that. And that was kind of the precursor to the Battle of Emery Meadows. And you were gonna get sent into the temple briefly, and then sent over to Castle Greyhawk, and then you may go back to the temple depending on what happened, all that sort of stuff. So, but your knowledge was going to, or your hidden memories was going to unveil a lot of that as being a witness to certain things, and the party would understand that there's a interdimensional force. After that quit, and then I went and bought Baldur's Gate to play with Magenta, I was like, why does this sound like the kind of thing I did with the, not that they, copied me, obviously, but I was like, sounds like people are going to think I copied off of that. I don't know if you played Baldur's Gate or know what the thing is, but there's a little bit of that going on in Baldur's Gate with these mind flayers. I don't know if you played it or not, along with the bear sex. But yeah. So eventually what you were going to do is, when you found all the details and you try to stop the clone Roblar and all that stuff, then you would go north and try to go in and seal the rift that this cult has gods, and the gods are were kind of a metaphor for the WotC management and stuff like that. You were supposed to close off the rift that they in the dimensional door or whatever that they had created by going into this fortress that they had that had a machine in it. You know, you had to get artifacts from Castle Greyhawk that would manipulate this machine and turn it off and all this stuff. So, but basically the whole campaign was this large metaphor for WotC, you know, creeping in and ruining everything and co-opting it. That was the gist. That's why I made the cultists all psycho-eyed and rabid and all mutated and stuff like that. I was Sparkle Trolls. That was what that was. But that's really, I did that because I thought at one point that Rob was going to play, because he told me he wanted to play, and he joined the server, and we were setting it up, and I was hoping that he would at least do a cameo and be, you know, I was going to request to him. I really would have. I don't know how you feel about this, but my question was going to be, I'd like you to cameo as Robilar, the real one, and give him the story and have him, you know, jump in and be part of it with you. And then he kind of blew me off, and that was the end of it. So, but that was the plan with that whole campaign. But those, it just didn't seem to, like those, the couple said, that is a good one too. That looks neat with all the planets in the background. I like that too. But that couple, like, you know, it just didn't really seem to gel. And I was like, yeah, I know. I didn't really like everything that was going on with the thing and all that. So I was kind of crusty about it. So, and they said, well, you know, this is our first online thing, and we've decided we don't really like it. So I guess I'm not very good. I chase them all off. But, oh well. Okay, so you give, all right. So I don't know if you're still on the live, but yeah, I don't give them that. I don't give that much like verbiage. I didn't know that you could write a paragraph. I thought you had to just give keywords and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess. All right, cool. All right, well, I think we've done enough damage here. So thanks, guys, for hanging out. It was kind of more of a chill stream, which is fine. That's cool. Just hanging out with people. I hope I have a place to live tomorrow, because I got everybody mad. But all right. We'll talk to you later. Thanks.